Hello, book watchers. On this episode, we are watching His and Hers. The book was written by Alice Feeney, published in 2020. It was adapted into a Netflix limited series released January 2026. Creator was William Oldroyd, and it stars Jon Bernthal and Tessa Thompson. Audiobook narrated by Richard Armitage and Stephanie Racine as the respective His and Hers POVs. Please note this podcast will contain conversation regarding some scenes in the book and the show, which depict crimes against children. May be very disturbing for some viewers and listeners. We really recommend checking the trigger warnings of the book and the show before consuming. All that being said, I am your host, Jordyn.
I'm Sarah-Daye.
And I'm Chris.
Okie dokie. So, quick-ish summary.
That's such a light way to enter this really dark story.
I know. Sorry. Just trying to find the light where I can, because this was a lot for me.
It is. It's a heavy one. And it's probably our heaviest one that we've done on the podcast.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And I did not check the trigger warnings beforehand. Because I usually am able to compartmentalize it's fiction. And things don't really bother me that much. But this one I was not ready for what happened. And unfortunately, it is something that is very prevalent in the real world right now. Jeffrey Epstein, all the things, the heinous crimes against teenage girls that have been coming out in the news recently. There is some, grooming of teenage girls, a full-on rape of teenage girls in this book, and I walked right into that wall and I was not ready for it. So we just want to make sure that our listeners and anybody who wants to go and read this book, watch this show, you guys go into it knowing what was going to happen, because it was very triggering for me when I got there. So would have loved a heads up if I had known better.
I watched the show first, and I think that it's still graphic and it's still shocking, but I think the way a drama is that you could tell something bad was going to happen in the next few scenes. So I think it was I don't want to say easier pill to swallow in the show, but I think it better prepared you mentally for what was about to happen. And they changed it a little bit, but
yes.
So when I did get to it into the book, I was much more prepared than I was in the show.
Yeah, I'd had some warning ahead of time. I just kind of looked up the story a little bit, so I kind of knew there was something coming in that area. I tried not to spoil myself fully into the story with that, but definitely it was something that if I'd known you were unaware of it, I would have made sure I shared that with you. But we got through it, and it is part of the story that I think kind of leads into some of the actual reason for the story. So however much it can be triggering, it can also tell a story that leads us where we're at here.
Yeah, it definitely is the crux for why everything later in the story makes sense and is justifiable, quote unquote. So it's not gratuitous by any means the way that a lot of storytelling of this nature can be. But yeah, like I said, I did not watch the show first. I did not look into this story before reading it. I just was trucking along, and there was, you knew, like Sarah-Daye said, you knew something bad was going to happen, but I was not ready for that specific bad thing to happen. Yeah, so anyways, getting into a little summary. So His and Hers is a dark adult murder mystery where the twists keep coming right up to the last moment. News reporter Anna Andrews, Tessa Thompson's character, returns to her hometown after the murder of an old high school friend, and her ex-husband, Jack Harper, played by Jon Bernthal, happens to be the lead detective on the case. The book continuously switches between Jack and Anna's points of view as they each try to solve the mystery of who is killing Anna's old school friends, as well as what happened 20 years ago on Anna's 16th birthday, which is the aforementioned rape scene. Dealing with really heavy topics, as we mentioned, murder, rape, and it also, trigger warning for SIDS, which is sudden infant death syndrome. This book definitely has a lot of heavy, dark stuff in it, but as far as a mystery story goes, it's really well written. It kept me guessing all the way through, and it's a lot better written than some of the other thrillers that we've covered on this pod. If you know, you know. So let's, as we mentioned, key themes: trauma, revenge, career ambition, truth versus lies versus somebody's, your own truth, your perception of what happened. um yeah, what were your guys' like initial thoughts on this book and the show as we went through it?
So as I mentioned, I watched the show first. It's not as strong as I thought it would have been based on having Jon and Anna. No, not Anna. Tessa. That's her character. As the main leads, because they're both such solid actors. And the one that plays Priya, Sunita Amani, like she's up and coming right now. Like she's been in a lot. Um, I still loved it. I still did not guess the final twist. I thought I had figured things out, and then of course the final twist really threw me. And then getting to the book, reading it, and you also get to see the perspective of the killer in between all the chapters, and it's just a lot darker, and so that really it was hard. It was a really hard book to read, but also really interesting. Like, and I did want to know what was happening, even though I knew what happened in the show. I was like, did they change the ending at all? So I still wanted to finish it, but yeah, it's definitely a lot.
Yeah, I love a good vigilante superhero, origin story like this. Somebody gets away with it, and then they're going to go back for more. You see, it gets easier and easier, right? No, so it was definitely interesting to see the ways they kept things consistent, the ways they changed things in the show. And I read the book first, and then watched the show, which I think gave me. I was told by by my wife, who had heard from one of her friends, that I was not going to like the ending because they changed things, and I was okay with it. So I thought they did a pretty good job of interpreting the story. A few missing plot points, but we'll get into that here a little later.
Yeah, it was a page turner for sure, but it is hard to get through, especially like we've already
Mhm.
talked about. Those scenes are hard to get through, but it's well paced, it's well written, it's interesting. I was giving my husband updates as I was reading. I was like, "Oh, the killer is this person." And I was like, "Oh wait, no, new information. It's this person." And I kept literally up until the last second, I kept changing my mind of who I thought it was. So from that standpoint, it's really, really well written, and if you can handle the content, I would say definitely worth your time.
Yeah, exactly.
We did
All
that
right.
same sort of thing in my household. I read the book, and then we were watching the show together. So I had my wife guessing each time we got to a different character. Like, okay, who do you think it is now? And it was always someone different, and never the correct person until like the just before the ending, when she was kind of figured it out. But it was
Yeah.
it was close.
Yeah.
So she did figure out the final twist.
It was a guess, and she wasn't really thinking she was right. But it was just a little
Good for
like
her.
offhanded guess of like, oh, is
Yeah.
it that person? And I was like, no, it couldn't be. And
Good for her.
then
Yeah.
it goes to the reveal.
Yeah, not me. I was stumped. Let's get into this cast of characters, though. So, as we mentioned, our main female POV is Anna Andrews. She's played by Tessa Thompson. And then there are some of the flashback teenage scenes. And in those scenes, she's played by Kristen Maxwell. Um, what did we think of Tessa's portrayal of Anna based on how the character is described in the book?
I felt she was a little bit more dry, but I also think that's just Tessa Thompson in general. Like that's how she portrays a lot of her characters. I thought the casting of young Anna was great.
The first scene opens up with her drinking that like bottle of wine from the fridge or whatever, all in one scene, and that my wife said, "Oh, it's Valkyrie still." But I think she did a good job. It was yeah dry, but I think that fit the character pretty well.
All right, and then next we've got Anna's husband that she's separated from / ex-husband, depending on which medium you're looking at. Jack Harper, he's a detective, and he is played by Jon Bernthal. Love me some Jon Bernthal.
Mm-hmm. No complaints there with Jon. Again, I think it's a little bit of a different portrayal of the character, but the story's different. So I thought he was fine for what he did in the show.
Yeah, he pulled off the kind of sneaking around trying to hide his sins while still doing his job where he can and trying to reconnect with his in the show wife still. I thought that his portrayal of all that made sense, and a grieving uh, spouse slash father of it's only been a year since their child passed away is what the story is. So I could see all of this it making sense with the way he portrayed it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think the show version of Jack Harper was a lot kinder and like almost more naive than the book version. Like when I was watching the show, I never thought that it was him. Like I never got that impression. He always just seemed like a good guy, a very flawed guy, you know, a morally not pure guy, but never did I think for a second that he was the killer.
Right.
Which is a little bit different from the book because there are some parts, mostly earlier in the book, but there are some parts where I'm like, oh, it could be him. Like you never know.
The book
Um,
tried to keep you moving back to him once in a while. Yeah.
yeah, for
Well,
sure.
I think the show did too. Like not as much, but the show definitely put red herrings on a lot of characters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Next up, we've got Anna's mom, Alice Andrews. She's played by Crystal Fox. Um, Mostly a minor role throughout especially the show. Her like background stuff that she did was shrunk down a lot in the show, but she popped up here and there throughout the book.
Well, she had to.
Yeah.
Removing the father storyline really kind of was one of the things I wish they had put in the show, but I was it worked out in the end. But the Anna finding her mom after after the fact when her father disappears, all bloody and trying to figure out what happened is kind of a big part of what leads to some of the later things. I feel like so.
Yeah, and it makes more sense that like she's already done it before,
Right.
and so it makes it easier for her to do it again, you know, later. But without that like initial instance with the dad, it kind of makes it a little bit harder to believe that just what happened to her daughter, which to be fair, I would also do what Alice Andrews did if something like that happened to my daughter. um, don't come for me, NSA agent listening to this.
So you're on a list now, but okay.
You know what? Fine.
I think there's
death,
a lot of
death to
parents that would say
pedophiles.
the same thing.
100%.
Yeah,
Like
I agree.
if
yeah,
you and the anger and the like this pulled on my heartstrings a lot as a mom. The whole thing with the SIDS and then what happened here and like that it was the mom at the end of the day.
mm-hmm.
And it's like a lot of parents will say like they will kill for their kids. Like
Mm-hmm.
do not like you go mama bear.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, she was valid for what she did, but I agree with Chris. Like taking away the fact that she killed the dad first kind of detracts from it making sense in the show. So I wish they had kept that in as well.
Well, and there's the whole part of her not wanting to leave the house, like to go to a care
Mm-hmm.
home in the book and that sort of thing too, because the husband, the dead father, is buried in the backyard in the garden,
Right.
as a big part of her reason to stay. And
Yeah.
so,
And then it kind of changes Anna's character because Anna helps cover that up at the end of the book. She puts down like the patio and the cement to, you know, hide that from any potential renters who come into the house. Versus the show ends, she's just reading her mom's confession letter and her mom still lives in the house and like that's it. So not having Anna like looped in on the scheme, like not she's not looped in throughout, but like that last minute thing of like my mom did all this for me, let me, you know, get her back as well, changes Anna's character a little bit too.
I do think in the show you see her accept it and like give her a nod of approval. Like,
Yeah.
I see what you did. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
and now Alice can go hire a housemaid and they can go vigilante together now.
See, now that that's a crossover that I'm interested in for sure. Okay, so next character on our list is in the book she's called Kat Jones, and in the show she's changed her name to Lexi Jones. But this is Catherine Kelly, who is the odd girl out that gets extremely bullied and taken advantage of by the victims, and she's Kat Jones. Lexi Jones is played by Rebecca Rittenhouse for her adult scenes, and Catherine Kelly, that's her name at the time when she's a teenager, is played by Astrid Rotenberry. I kind of get why they changed the name, because that was one of the early things that made me think that it was Catherine Kelly, was the fact that her name was Kat. Changing her name from Kat Jones to Lexi Jones, I think made sense to kind of like try to cover it up more and make you kind of work harder to guess that she was involved in any way. So I like that, and I like the characterization of teenage Catherine Kelly is different. In the book, she is described as being like almost albino. She's very skinny, still with braces, still the odd man out, but they changed that to make her a plus size girl who gets picked on by these, skinny, mean girl types.
Yeah. I thought the actress Astrid Rottenberry did a really great job in her acting. There was one look she gave, and I can't remember if it was after I think it was after the piss in a cup scene or piss in a can. And like that's when I was like, she did it. She's getting revenge on everybody. And then what made me 100% know for a fact she did it was when they said her full name, and it was Catherine Alexis. And I'm like, I turned to my husband, I'm like, Alexis, Lexi, it's her. I told you, I'm right. And then, yeah, of course, the final twist proved me wrong. But up until that point, like the whole finale, I'm like, oh, I got it right. I never get it right. I'm so excited.
Well, but then we
But
also get the moment where she does kind of kill her sister by just a
yes.
teenage spite more than anything. She wasn't trying to kill her sister; she was just trying to be mean to her sister. But the asthma attack happens, and she depleted the inhaler before getting on the boat, and so her sister dies from not having her inhaler.
Yeah.
Yeah. That scene made me really question if the show was going to change who the killer was.
Right. Because
Because
that's
that
completely different
scene,
from the book. So
yeah, that scene is not, it's described how the sister dies on the boat from asthma or suffocation or something, like something innocent and harmless, like not suspected to be a murder at all. But having that scene in the show of Catherine pumping the inhaler and like blowing the medicine into the air so it can't be used, I was like, oh shoot, maybe they changed it. Maybe they are having her actually be the killer. Because I also thought that it was her. I was like, Catherine, it's her. She has every reason. Good for her. They deserve it. Like, go get them, girl. I was so like team Cat Jones when I was reading the book, and then I was like, wait, what? Like, it's not her. Like, it's still a revenge killing, but not the person who I think should have been able to get the revenge. But we'll get to that.
well, and if it had gone the way that was planned, it would have just been all pinned on her. So she was just going to go to jail if the mom had her way.
Yeah. And that's different too. And we'll get to that a little bit more when we talk about the plot. But even
Right.
that is not originally how it was meant to go down. So that was fun. Another fun little twist. So Kat / Lexi Jones is married to Richard Jones, who is a cameraman who also works for the news station. He's played by Pablo Schreiber. I don't know if anybody, you guys listeners, anybody watches Law and Order SVU, but Pablo Schreiber is very well known in my family for playing William Lewis. And he did such a good job in that role that William Lewis is our code word. Like, if something bad is happening, like that's the code word, like, I'm in trouble, I need help. And I can't see him as anything else. When I see him, I'm like, there he is, that's William Lewis, he's the worst. So I immediately was like, something's up with this guy, like he's bad news, like don't trust him. What did you guys think of him? He's a much smaller role, but
Yeah, fine. I thought he was great. Like he did well as the is he, isn't he? Like, can I trust him? Can I not trust him? Like, is he just a cameraman? And then like when you find out the relationship with him and Lexi, and then you start thinking how Lexi is the one behind all this, and you're like, yeah, I don't trust him. But do I? Is he in on it? I don't know. So I think he
Yeah.
nailed that kind of acting.
Yeah, I think the actor did a really good job with the role. I mean, he's definitely not trustworthy. He's definitely someone that could have been an accomplice to some of this stuff, but ultimately, it seems like he got the short end of this whole thing because he wasn't involved in the original stuff, but yet he gets kind of shafted at the end. His wife dies. The whole his world gets destroyed because of what these girls did back in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah, he always just is doing something. I always had like suspicions like that he was involved, that he's not involved, and then always right at the last second I was like, okay, I guess you're fine. Okay, so next on the list is Detective Priya Patel, played by Sunita Mani.
That she was great. There's of course a change in the storyline with the romance with Jack, but um, other than that, I thought she was a really fun character. I really liked her piecing things together and not really letting him throw her off his trail. And I really liked that side story.
Yeah, both the book and the screen did that really well, and kept her as the detective he was kind of trying to push around as his subordinate that he's trying to train up, but also keep as his person doing the dirty work for him. I felt like, and but I think she did a really good job with it. She stood her ground on where she needed to. She was willing to look behind the curtain a little bit and try to figure out what was going on where she needed to, and I think it was performed great.
Yeah, I agree with all that. There was some times in the book, because the book is so well written, that I thought it was her as the
Mm-hmm.
killer, because she was being a little bit sus, and then I felt like she had lured Jack to her house, and then she was disappearing throughout the dinner and coming back and forth, and I was like, oh my god, it's her. And then I was like, wait, she has no motive, like why would she do it? So testament to the writing, that it was, like I said, kept me guessing, bouncing all over the place. And I think them changing the characterization of her made sense. I didn't like the subplot of yet again an older man coming on to a younger woman, and he like resisted it for most of the book, but he still gave in, and that made me feel yucky about Jack Harper. So I did like that they took that part out and just made it more, he, like I said, he's a little bit kinder in the show, I felt. And so I like that he was a little bit more of the like, you know, grumpy, worn down detective, like teaching the young gun, the ropes and all that. So I did like that change for both of them.
Just want to add on to that I liked how they changed Anna and Jack from being divorced to separated, and that they like how they got back together at the end. And like it's an easier way to get back together if you're just separated rather than divorced, because a really terrible thing happened to them in their life and their relationship. Um and that's going to affect a lot of relationships in that way. Um but then this other terrible thing happened which kind of like brought them back together.
Yeah, I like that change as well. I think it made a
Yeah.
lot of sense.
And so it's just like I like his character a lot better in the show, that yes, he was having an affair with Rachel, whatever, that they were separated. So
Yeah,
um that I did find that icky, but like I said, at the end of the day, like they were separated, and then like he did go out of his way to protect her, and they
yeah,
talked through a lot of the issues they had in the past year.
yeah.
Guy's a
Which
terrible driver.
he's just got road rage. Okay, it's not the same.
Well, that was one of Rachel's comments too. My wife was that this guy cannot drive because like every time he's taking some of those turns, it's just like cutting cold corners and driving in the middle of the road. And it's like, come on, man, learn to drive.
Um, next character is Zoe Harper. So that's going to be Jon Bernthal / Jack Harper's sister. Adult version is played by Marin Ireland, and teenage version is played by Leah Merritt. Um, I somehow felt like she got more character growth in the show and less at the same time.
Mm.
The show took out the subplot of her attacking the animals of the neighborhood and making the fur coat like full Cruella de Vil style, and like torturing the animals and all of that. So they took that part out, which I didn't mind because there's enough dark stuff happening. I don't need to see kittens attacked either.
Yeah.
But the adult version, like we got more interaction between her and Jack in the show, and so that like gave her a little bit more depth. Like you kind of see like she just has been a messed up kid, a messed up person her whole life. And so like I did feel a little bit more sympathy for her in the show when she was killed than I did for her in the book when she was killed.
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
totally agree with that. It was very much, I think that was performed well. I mean, she was just meant to be this dumpster fire of a person that was just having a hard time with life in general, and had taken her brother after his loss and separation. And, she was trying to do what's right, but then she was kind of, just a neglectful mom in some ways too, leaving her kid alone and stuff. So I can see where the killer would have thought that Jack might be better off being the parent of that child, and I can see the motive there. But it is a bummer to see a mom get killed and leave a child behind in the story.
yeah, that's
So
a bummer. Yeah. And that, I mean, oh, we'll talk about it in the next episode, I'm sure, but that scene of him finding her was so
that was,
good.
yeah,
Yeah, he really earned his Emmy with
Yeah, he
that one.
did. Yeah.
Okay, next on our list, another one of the Mean Girl group, Helen Wang. Adult version is played by Poppy Liu, and the teenage version is played by Tiffany Ho. Very minimal screen time for this character in the show, and also in the book. She's not around that much. But I thought both actresses, did their job
Yeah.
portraying this character and how she was described in the book, very uptight and like kind of proper.
Yeah, I don't have much to add on Helen.
she's not really a big influence in the film at all. So I mean, like she's there, but we don't really see much. So
Next up is Rachel Hopkins. The adult version is played by Jamie Tisdale. We really see her alive for like, what, 2 seconds?
2 seconds.
Mostly she's playing a dead body.
Yeah.
But teenage Rachel, Isabel Kuzmin, I think she did a phenomenal job. She just was evil the whole time, and I hated her
Yeah.
desperately. So really great performance from this young actress. I wish I knew her from other things, so this was not my only association of her, because she plays a really terrible person.
Sure.
But she did a
a
good
very
job playing
punchable
it.
face.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And this is the one I have like the most to say, or like she has the most cut. I feel like their relationship was changed, and so it is interesting to have such a major plot point of the book cut so dramatically into the show, because like you said, she was only in there for 2 seconds. Now granted, the teen Rachel was in there more in the flashbacks, but we just don't get a lot of Rachel, so she has the biggest character arc change, I would say, out of all this cast.
I think another point with some of these characters is that the whole intro to the story and the exit to the story is there's two sides to every story, and someone's always lying. And so each of these characters has a reason they are the way they are too. So it'd be almost interested to see more of Rachel's why she is the way she
Her
is. What is
upbringing,
her home
yeah.
life like? We got a little bit of Kat's story, but we don't see much of the home life of anybody else before adulthood. So there's a lot more story that doesn't need to be in this story, but is an interesting thought on life a little bit there. Of all of us have our demons that cause us to be who we are.
Yeah, I mentioned before I work with children in the state of California. I'm a mandated reporter, and I actually just retook my certificate a month ago. And what something they said is like, if a child is grooming another child, it's probably because they have been groomed and they have
Right.
been
Yeah.
assaulted and molested.
Yeah.
So I didn't think about that because I was too busy hating her
Right.
and when I was reading it, because of what she was doing to the other girls. But now that you've brought that up, like what was happening in her life, I'm like, oh, she was probably also a victim of this. And she, this type of thing probably happened to her first, and then she got roped in. And not to psychoanalyze her too deeply, but she probably was trying to get some control back in her life, and
Yeah.
was like, if I can do it to somebody else and I can be in charge of what's happening, if it still has to happen, if I can be in charge, that's better than just being victimized constantly.
Right.
Anyways,
An
death to
excuse it, but it gives
pedophiles.
people a little more depth to their characters if you think about where they come from.
Yeah, absolutely. Next up, so this is a new character that the show added, Clyde Duffy, who is Rachel Hopkins's husband. He's played by Chris Bauer. I think her husband gets mentioned throughout the book, but
Yeah.
Clyde Duffy gets a lot of screen time, and there's a lot of backstory for him in the show that is not covered in the book.
One change that I noticed, again, because I watched the show first, so when I'm reading the book, I'm noticing the changes. He is mentioned to be like real old, like 80s or 90s old, and Chris Bauer is not that old. They did mention the fact that like he is having issues in the bedroom, and that's why they made this deal. So that's why in the book he's just real old. So that's the biggest change there, other than being in the show a lot more.
Yeah, I think he performed the role well. He felt like a sleazy rich guy,
Right.
that's willing to, money is more important to him than most other stuff in his life. So he, just goes along with whatever. One of my big problems with the show was in the opening scene where we come in and it's not the Audi that she was said to be driving. I'm like, that's the wrong car. But that's just because I noticed that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That one went over my head, so good thing we've got Chris on the case. Okay, next character is Zoe Harper's daughter. In the book, her name is Olivia. In the show, her name is changed to Meg. I don't know why, it just is. But she is played by Miss Ellie Rose Sawyer, who is the cutest, sweetest little girl. I loved her every second she was on screen, and I read the book first, and so knowing what happened to her mom, she was in the house in the book when it happened, and so I was very terrified that the show was going to change that and something bad was going to happen to her. And they did change it, but they changed it in a way that I really liked, which is that she was out at a friend's house at a sleepover, so she was not, she didn't have to accidentally, because I was so terrified that she was going to walk into the bathroom while Jack was dealing with her. And so I'm glad that they made that change, so I didn't have to worry about that.
Yeah, cute little kid. Her, scenes of like where Jack was trying to use her as his like DNA to try and get out of that part, and then getting caught by
Yep.
his sister,
His sister.
was pretty good. And like, I'm like, okay, this kid's playing the role well. I like this. And they kept her mostly just a side story that made me like Jack's interactions with kids and everything. So maybe trust Jack more.
Yeah.
Because he was good with her.
Yes, he was. Jim Press. He's the manager of the news station. He gets to decide who's going to be the anchor, who has to go out into the field, that kind of stuff. In the show, played by Mike Pniewski. So sorry for mispronouncing. That character is completely different in the book. Both very minimal roles, but in the book, this character is like, he's got a lisp, he can't say his R, or a speech impediment, and he can't say his R's, and he's just like a complete laughing stock and nobody respects him. Versus I was like, oh, this is a powerful man. Like, this is somebody that, if he tells you to do something, you say yes sir and you go on your way.
Right. And both of the girls like really brown nose.
Mm-hmm. Not much to say about him. Yeah, he was fine.
Yeah.
Just a side character.
Yeah. And then the sheriff of Dahlonega, played by Dave Maldonado. This character, I don't think even makes a quote unquote visual appearance in the book. He's just referenced multiple times. So shout out this guy for making the cut.
Yep. Again, did fine, but didn't really stick on any level that mattered to me.
Yeah. Okay. So are there any other big character arcs that are changed between the show and the book that we want to talk about? I know we hit on a lot of them. One of the things that we didn't was Richard Jones and Anna Andrews hooking up.
Oh yeah.
In the book, they had hooked up previously on previous assignments, and then he got married, had kids, and now he's not interested in that anymore with Anna. Versus in the show, it's like episode 1, they're like, it's happening, and he's like actively cheating on his wife, like throughout this timeline, this storyline.
Half the reason I didn't trust him right from the beginning. Just
exactly.
that he isn't trustworthy in his marriage, so clearly we can't trust this character.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
Or Anna, but or Jack,
mm-hmm.
or anybody that's been infidelity in this thing, which is like everybody.
Pretty much. I think the final character that we didn't talk about yet is the location, the setting of the story. So the book takes place in this little in Blackdown, England, which is not a real place, the author said, but it's an English town. There's, it's England. There's no guns. So like the fact that Priya Patel has a gun is like a big deal in that story versus this show. They changed it, and so it takes place in Atlanta where everybody's got guns because it's the South. And so like that part of it is because, another reason why I was like, oh my gosh, maybe it is Priya because she has a gun and nobody else has a gun in the book. In the show, her having a gun is not special. She's a cop in America. Like, of course she has a gun. What do you guys think about the setting change? Like, did it change? Did it affect anything too much for you, or was it like a pretty seamless transition?
I don't think I noticed.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a, like, it doesn't really have a lot to do with the plot. So I think it was fine.
All right. Any other final notes on characters and character arcs? I know next episode when we go through the plot, more stuff might come up, but anything right now?
I'm good.
Okie dokie. That is a wrap on episode 1 of His and Hers. Be sure to like and subscribe, share to all your friends, check the trigger warnings, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye. That's a wrap for today's episode of BookWatch. I hope you enjoyed this journey into the world of page-to-screen adaptations. If you loved today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, review wherever you listen to podcasts, and share it with your fellow book and movie lovers. If you'd prefer to watch along, you can check the show out on YouTube. You can follow the show on Instagram at BookWatch Podcast, and you can follow me, Sarah-Daye, on Instagram at captain.mcdee. That's MCDEE. You can also join the conversation in the BookWatch Lounge on Facebook at www.facebook.com/groups/BookWatchLounge. If you would like to support the podcast, you can join the Patreon at www.patreon.com/BookWatchPodcast. Tiers start at only $4 a month, and I'd love to have you over there. If you have a favorite adaptation you'd like to cover with me, I'd love for you to apply to be on the show with the contact form on our website at www.bookwatchpodcast.com. Until next time, keep reading, keep watching, and I'll see you next week.